And now we get a special report from correspondent Nancy Noel, who is reporting on the case of TLO versus New Jersey, a case where a student claimed Fourth Amendment rights to suppress evidence of a search that was done when she was discovered smoking in the girls' bathroom. And now for our special report from Nancy.
This is the case of TLO versus New Jersey, 469 U.S. 325, decided by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1984. In this case, TLO was a 14-year-old female student at a high school in Piscataway, New Jersey. She was discovered by a teacher smoking in the girls' bathroom along with another girl. When the teacher brought them to the assistant principal, the other student confessed to smoking cigarettes, but TLO denied this. The assistant principal accused her of lying, and he searched her purse. In her purse, he not only discovered cigarettes, but rolling paper as well, which led to him searching her purse further, where he discovered marijuana, a roll of money, and an index card with a listing of the names of students who owed her money. The assistant principal turned this over to the local police agency, who arrested her. When brought to juvenile court, she attempted to have this evidence suppressed, claiming that it was not a legal search. The court held for the prosecution and allowed the evidence to be entered into the court proceedings. She was convicted, but only had to serve probation. And yet, she appealed. An appeal in the New Jersey State Court System Appellate Division affirmed the court's decision and said that there had been no Fourth Amendment violation. However, they sent the case back to juvenile court to see if TLO had knowingly and voluntarily waived her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. She had confessed during the interrogation by the police. The case then went to the New Jersey State Supreme Court, which also agreed that the Fourth Amendment is applicable to the conduct of school officials. However, they also said that school officials were able to conduct searches without warrants if they had reasonable grounds to believe that the student could be engaging in illegal activity. However, the New Jersey court did overturn this decision later on, saying that having cigarettes was not a valid reason for searching her purse because possession of cigarettes did not violate the school rules. This was then brought to the United States Supreme Court. The issue brought to the Supreme Court was whether evidence The issue brought to the Supreme Court was whether evidence that had been unlawfully seized by a school official without involvement by a police agency could be allowed as evidence in a juvenile delinquency court hearing. And the court did not actually address this issue. However, the court did conclude that the Fourth Amendment does apply to school officials, but in this case, they believed that the search was reasonable. Although all the justices did not completely agree with this ruling, and there were several dissents and concurrences with dissents, a good rule of thumb came from this decision. This decision was penned by Justice Powell with Justice Sandra Day O'Connor concurring. This ruling generated two rules that people should be following. Rule number one, is the search justified at its inception? And two, as the search was conducted, is it reasonable in terms of how it is related to the reason why they began the search in the first place? So, the court evaluated these facts of the TLO case and concluded that the search was justified at its inception because a teacher had reported that she had seen TLO smoking. And it also decided that the discovery of the rolling papers provided reasonable suspicion, and that allowed the assistant principal to continue searching. There were several dissents. Most of the judges wanted to make sure that it was understood that schools have a responsibility to immediately respond to threats and to have a safe and orderly environment. And also, that does give them the ability to search based on reasonable suspicion as opposed to probable cause. However, Justice Brennan and Justice Marshall thought that it should be probable cause instead of reasonable suspicion, and wrote so in their dissents. As administrators, this court case gives us fairly clear guidelines as to when and how searches should be conducted. However, it also leaves room for challenges. I would want to be very sure that I had reasonable grounds for the search, and probably take it as far as probable cause to safeguard myself from lawsuits. I would also take into account the reason for the search. Does it really help me with protecting the school and safeguarding the students, or is it a search to prove myself right or to incriminate a student? Although this case had to do with searching a student's purse, I also believe that it sets a precedent for searching students' cell phones and mobile devices. Again, is it justified? Is there a good reason for this? Do I find anything that would cause me to search farther or further? Again, I would want to be very sure that I have a reasonable cause for doing this and that I can justify this in court. And I would also want to be sure that this was something that would affect school security. There are an amazingly large number of lawsuits against schools, and I would want to make sure that I am not setting my district up for legal expenses. This is the case.
Thank you so much for that timely report. I can find that to be a very applicable lesson to be learned as we look at cases now where we have social media and cell phones in school and a whole lot more technology in our classrooms than we did back in 1984 when this case was decided. As an administrator, I always want to make sure that I am responsible for protecting my students and staff, but also making sure that my students and staff's rights are protected as well. So that's all from here in the newsroom, and we thank you for watching.